Greetings, I'm Chappers.
And I'm the Captain.
Welcome to Andertons.co.uk.
Yes, the home of tone. Rob had an idea for a video that I completely misunderstood, but we've shot anyway, and it's kind of doing its dual purpose now. So, what was your concept for a video, Rob?
Well, I really like amplifiers that do a job really well. Sometimes said amplifier does one job really well, but not many jobs. So for example, JTM 45, RD1, they do crunch and gain, but they don't necessarily do a clean, or they do a clean but they don't do a gain or whatever. And so some guitarists, myself included, like several amplifiers that you can switch between, have one golden shiny god for the clean, one perfect idol of joy for the crunch, or maybe crunch and gain, and then a pedal.
So Rob wanted to put some amps up and see if we could almost have like a channel switching solution where it's clean is one amp, gain is another amp. I misunderstood what Rob meant, and I thought he meant, are there two amps that when run simultaneously give the golden tone, rather than, you know, so you'd have both amps on all the time and then just get your gain sounds perhaps by using pedals or whatever.
That's probably another video that we should do.
Well, we can do both videos in one. And I'm just going to massively clang name drop, and if you've not seen the video yet, please go find it. I interviewed Carlos Santana the other day.
Wow.
And he was talking about a head tone, a chest tone, and a belly tone, and he has three amps that he runs simultaneously. He has a Boogie, he said, for the head tone, a Dumble for the chest tone,
of course,
and a Bluto tone, I think he said it was. I think it's an amp brand that Larry Carlton uses, but anyway, a different amp for the belly tone. They're all run simultaneously though. So in this video, I've plugged in, or the team collectively has plugged in, 5 amplifiers that I think are covering probably most of the well-known bases. So we've gone with a Victory Sheriff 22 over there to do our vintagey Marshall-y kind of tones. Obviously, there are lots of amplifiers, Marshall included, who make amps that do that, but that's that one. Should we just have a little? And
yeah.
We've set, it's pretty vanilla-y kind of tones. We've left most of the EQ pretty flat, just to sort of go, here's a ballpark tone. So here's a no pedal, that's that amp.
First time trying the Sheriff properly, and I really like it.
So we haven't cranked it. There's more gain in there if we wanted it, but we were going middle of the road. The next one is a Boogie mini rectifier. So that's going to be of the 5 amps, probably one of our higher gain amps. Here's the Boogie. And I believe again, we're using the modern channel on that with everything about 12 and the gain just before halfway.
The gain is quite, I've backed it off a bit more actually, so it's...
Okay,
you know. Then
we've got a classic Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, set very clean, and this is actually the first amp we've got with inbuilt reverb. And again, all the dials pretty central on that one too. Then we've got a Vox AC15 in its top boost channel. Here we go.
And of course, I have a snake oil very thing on the floor if I need it.
So that's the very thing is largely a volume boost, tiny bit of gain, but mainly a volume boost just to try and drive these. And then our last amplifier, we've got one more amp.
I also have volume here.
What?
The S switch. When I put it in the middle and switch it off, all the pickups.
So our last amplifier is, and this is a fun one, and we could have set this up with a myriad of different tones, but it's a BOSS Katana Mark II head on its brown sound. So I guess if we cover off your part of the demo first, what are you going to lean to as an amp that you would have clean versus an amp that you would have for your lead channel, and we'll just do switching like that.
Well, I mean, you know, as a player, I would traditionally roll off on a crunch to get a kind of a clean that has a warmth to it, because I love a heated warmth. So, I mean, to be really honest with you, having set up, played them, I've already made a choice on what I would take away and just use at a gig or a tour or whatever. What
would that be?
Well, it would be the Sheriff, and it would be the Boss, and it would be the Vox.
So you'd go for a tri-rig, but is that for a channel switching rig or for an all three at once rig?
Well, channel switching rig.
Right.
I would be interested in using the Vox and the Boss together as a lead tone. Because the Boss has this high-end gain, saturation, you know, kind of vibe, and the Vox has the earthy body that the Boss maybe could lack.
Well, let's try that then. So now I'm using, I should give these guys a plug. They are, it's a tiny German company called Lehle, L-E-H-L-E. They make mainly switching devices. Pete introduced me to them when he first started working here. He toured with them for many, many years, and they are the most fabulous studio and live tools. If you want to connect 2 devices up or 3 devices up, and you want to be able to switch them and eliminate hums and phase cancellation issues and all that kind of stuff, they're just the best tools ever.
Wow.
So that's what I'm using here to switch between the 5 amplifiers. It's a little bit of a mushed up. I've had to use 2 things together and a couple of tuners on the floor to mute things.
We use those all the time, don't we?
Yes.
It's probably the one thing we use every single demo we do.
Especially the little yellow one, the little yellow P split. But anyway, whatever. That's a whole nother video. In fact, I think if you go back through the annals of time, or the anals of time, as Pete likes to call them.
You know, if you look back at the catalogs, the annals of rock music and all this sort of stuff, that must be.
It's annals, Pete.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was anals.
Wow.
I did a video with one of the guys from Lehle 3 or 4 years ago to talk about. Anyway, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So let's go back to now just the Sheriff 22. And you say you'd use that as a clean sound, so you obviously need to back down a little bit.
So what I would do is, if we were using these 3 amplifiers, I would have the Vox on.
Oh, okay.
I would step in the Sheriff for rhythm. I would turn the Sheriff off and put on the Boss for lead. But I probably need to tweak the Boss with a tiny bit more gain.
I can do that for
if
you.
you can reach through that very affordable
So
Les
here
Paul.
is the Sheriff and the AC-15 together that you're saying is... Now, interestingly here as well, because the Sheriff and the rectifier have no inbuilt reverb, so the reverb that you're hearing is potentially only going to be coming if we're using the Fender, the Vox, or the Katana.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, the Boss has got reverb.
Yeah.
I can still get a clean, especially if I use it in between.
That's a very complementary tone, those two, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Especially the Vox is filling it out big time.
And if I S-switch, put it in the middle... And if I step on a pedal... Even just with those on a fairly low gain, I can get it to wherever I need it to be. In fact, if I tweak this, so I'm really just pushing the valves, it'll be more of a...
Just a crunchy rhythm tone, isn't it? So then you were saying, if I dial a smidgen more gain into this Boss...
Yeah, to 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, quite a bit more gain because we were about 10 o'clock before, but okay. And then you think that we're leaving the Vox on permanently.
Yeah, Permavox.
Permavox,
Turn
I
off
like
the Sheriff.
it. So Sheriff goes off, Katana goes on. Can I put a tiny more volume on the Boss?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
It might be. It might be. It might be.
Can I show people what we lose if we turn the Vox off?
Yeah.
Because I think it's just stellar. So hit just the Boss now. And with the Vox. Again, I think if we were to just use the Vox in isolation,
But they're complementing the
They
tones.
are.
Now, if we double up those,
yeah,
and I step on
wrong way.
step on a. You got your lead tone.
Oh, so I think you get an idea. Now, what I'd quite like to do now is just whilst Rob's playing and maybe not much talking, maybe we'll just annotate this on the screen. I'm just going to start putting together random combinations of amplifiers. Well, not random, but combinations of amplifiers. And we'll just see which amps complement each other. Maybe we'll get an idea of what this Carlos Santana thing where he was talking about, where... So let's start playing.
Yeah. nice.
I'm going to say the Vox is like tomato ketchup. Like
It
on
goes
its
with
own,
everything.
I wouldn't necessarily eat it on its own, but I would absolutely have it with everything else.
Yeah.
Now we got Boogie and Boss, our two highest gain amps. Honestly, I think you can throw that Vox in with anything and it adds
I think you might be
something.
right. So now that we've done that,
Yes.
can I put a bit more gain on the Sheriff?
Yeah.
And can I try the Sheriff and the Vox?
Absolutely. So on the Sheriff, you've got two options there. You can either just plug into channel 2, which naturally has more gain on it, or you can do what you've just done, which is turn the preamp gain for channel 1. Depends how much more you want. So sorry, now we want the Sheriff back on, but not the Boss.
I also would like to change guitar.
No.
I would. Yeah.
It's really interesting. Whilst Rob's changing guitar, one of the things that obviously a lot of modern guitar effects processors do will be these dual amp setups, and I think it's worth fiddling with that and seeing what interesting tones you can get. But where I think they fail to live up to what we're doing here is that if they ultimately still come out of one speaker, you still, although you're perhaps getting two preamp signals that maybe make an interesting match, the fact is the speaker can only do one thing, and I think the magic that we're getting here is that you've got two
combos
different,
and cabs.
And you've got two different speakers, and in some instances we're using 212s as well, so multiple speakers doing different things and really complementing each other. You do have to be careful if you're using a 2-amp rig that you don't inadvertently have one amp with one phase setting and one with the other, because then you get some sort of cancellation. That's another reason where perhaps these little Layla switches are good.
Yeah.
So now we're using the Sheriff with a little bit more gain, obviously the PRS, and the Vox. Funnily enough, I think the Vox is naturally quite honky, and that PRS is naturally quite honky as well. So I've just taken a little bit of treble off and
using the honk control.
It's like, yes, it's the honk, but now it sounds wicked. Let's go.
I like that.
It's a great combination. I mean, it's pretty old school, isn't it? I mean, you know, guitar players have been using 2 guitar amplifiers, you know, back to the dawn of time almost.
You know what I'm wondering though, Lee? I'm wondering if it's the combination of the amps that I like, or whether I just discovered that I like the Sheriff.
No, I think it's. I think that you've got this back in the day where, you know, guitar players were complete. They didn't have any alternative but to take big amps to play theatres, and if they needed more power, they just had more amps. Yeah, and I think, you know, people they got sounds out of multiple amp setups that they probably didn't even realise were epic. Yeah. And then as over the last, you know, 20 or 30 years, it's been like, oh no, let's try and take less gear, and let's just have combos that switch and do like 15 different channels. And and they're, you know, I understand why, and there's some killer sounding ones of those, but there's just something about 2 or 3 different amps complementing. Can you?
I have a request.
Go on.
Could you play all of the amps at the same time with your lovely Les Paul?
All 5 at the same time. Thank you. In fact, what I might do is just add them in one at a time for added suspense. Button. Boogie and Sheriff now. And now with the Fender as well. In the mix, I just think that because the Fender's clean and has got no natural compression on it at all, it's the first note to arrive every time, and it doesn't really...
I don't like it.
It doesn't really... No, I would turn that down in the mix. Anyway, and the Vox as well now. And finally, all 5! Oh, Pete's clapping. I thought Pete was going, stop.
Hey Lee,
Blimey, 5
stand
sounds
up and
wicked.
play a little bit and put your head this side. Makes a big difference which side of the screen you're on.
I imagine.
It's like brighter your side,
Wow.
darker my
I'm going
side.
to take the Fender out and just see if that... So now we've just... I have Avec pedal just for...
that might be one of the best sounds you've ever had, which is, you know, impractical for you.
Well, look, you guys have now you got to hear every single amp paired up. You got to hear different combinations of them. The very first one that you got, you know, Sheriff, Vox, and Boss sounded
I like
epic.
it. Yeah.
You'll all have your own opinions as to which ones you preferred.
What's your favourite combination of amplifiers, even including ones that we don't have here? Is it, you know, Dumble and Dumble? Or is it...
The Millionaire's stereo rig.
Is it
Dumble
Marshall
and Dumble?
And D25?
Dumble and
DT25?
Dumble, that's like a sitcom. Isn't that like a detective, like Cagney and Lacey? Dumble and Dumble.
If we could go back in past to the amplifiers we've tried over the past 10 years, I would try a Machete with a DT25, the line 6.
Wow, shout. So
yeah.
you're talking the Fender high gain with a line 6
Yes.
weird switching thing.
That would have been cool.
I tell you what, I'm glad that we did, because I just think it's quite happy in this company. It's Katana.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
you don't sit there going, yeah, it's so obvious that's the weedy transistor one. You know, it's just like, that does a thing. It's very good. I mean, admittedly, we've put it through a reasonably sort of expensive speaker cabinet, but hey, they're all going through expensive speaker cabinets.
Well, it was good. Good experiment.
Yeah, good experiment. Took a while to set up. Hope you enjoyed it.
We should do it with really cheap amps next time.
Just literally get like all those Marshall MS2s and Orange Crushes and everything
No, I mean
that.
like,
and just,
you know, Spider, Crush, the Marshall, what's it called? The
Code or
Code,
the
yeah.
MG. Or,
And Black Star.
well, as in... Well, do you know what? I think if you put enough of anything together and get it loud enough and moving enough air, you could get a good guitar tone.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, that's it. I've been the Captain.
I've been Chappers.
See you next time.
Bye.